The Chancellor started his budget briefing with a welter of fiscal updates on growth, spending and government debt. Frankly, a bewildering amount of statistics. But within all that bluster, there were some genuinely welcome measures and some clearly politically motivated measures too. It was a real mixed bag. So let's talk about measures that might benefit the wider economy and your families. A well-trailed 2p cut in national insurance, saving every employee £450 a year. Obviously to be welcomed, putting more money in your pocket. As you may know, child benefit is not available for those who earn over £60,000 a year, and child benefit is reduced for those earning between £50,000 and £60,000 a year. From 2026, that assessment of income will be based on a household rather than an individual basis. However, between now and then, the point at which the child benefit is started to be taken away is going to be increased from £50,000 to £60,000, and the taper will only end at £80,000. So that means the rate of taper is halved compared to where it is now. Apparently, that will mean 170,000 families will continue to receive child benefit who don't now, and 500,000 families will receive more child benefit than they do now because of those increases in thresholds. That again must be seen as good news. Fuel duty has been frozen. There was due to be a 5p increase in fuel duty. That's been frozen and will now not come in until February 2025. The other interesting point is around government funded childcare. A lot of parents qualify for 30 hours of free childcare to be paid for by the government. The rates at which that childcare will be paid have now been guaranteed for the next 2 years. A particular favourite of mine is alcohol duty. It's been frozen. Cheers to that. However, no pleasure without pain. Business class flights, for those of you lucky to turn left when you get onto an aircraft, will be increased. The price will go up because air passenger duty is going to also go up. And of course, the taxes on vaping and tobacco will also be increased. The question I have though is, this probably sounds like broadly good news. However, let's think about fiscal drag for a moment. That is the fact the thresholds for the higher rate of tax, income tax at 40%, national insurance rates, and of course inheritance tax rates have all been frozen until 2028 at the earliest. If we think about that average saving of £450 per employee from the national insurance reduction of 2p in the pound, let's compare that to what's actually happened. If you earn £50,000 a year, and you get a 4% pay rise to £52,000 a year, that £2,000 will be taxed at 40%. That's an £800 tax take. That's £400 more than would have been taken if that £50,000 threshold had been increased. So you compare that to a £450 saving in national insurance and the fact that those thresholds are going to be frozen for another 4 years, and you can see that 2p national insurance saving is only giving back what either has already been taken or will be taken in the future. That said, let's put some perspective on this. We'd rather have them giving some money back than giving no money back. Let's talk about spending for a moment. The government has also committed, or reaffirmed its commitment, I should say, to a 1% real-time increase in spending above inflation. The problem is, though, of course, is that 1% will probably apply to the protected departments, NHS, Defence, and those departments may even get more than 1%. And what that means is the police, courts, transport will all suffer larger cuts. For those on lower incomes, there was also good news. The Household Support Fund has been extended for another 6 months, and universal credit loans, which used to be repayable over 12 months, will now be repayable over 24 months. However, those on lower incomes, repaying any sorts of loans is going to be tricky. Moving briefly on to the political thunder that the government have tried to steal from Labour, the non-dom regime, which applies to certain individuals with particular circumstances, will be changed in April 2025 to a new and different regime. I think there's an awful lot of political noise about non-doms and an awful lot of noise in the press, because I only learnt myself this morning that it applies to 68,000 people. Now, we're a country of 70 million people, so to be hearing this much noise about 68,000 strikes me as a little bit naive. And then lastly, I'd just like to leave you with this thought. The government is going to implement in full the NHS Productivity Plan, investing £3.5 billion to digitise the NHS, making patients' records digital, improving AI use, which should increase the number of appointments that consultants can take and operations that can be undertaken. Those savings apparently are worth £35 billion a year, 10 times the investment of £3.5 billion. Now, I've been doing this quite a long time, and I can't help but think if we added up all the savings that I've heard of in the last 30 years since I've been in tax, we probably wouldn't need to pay any tax at all. So, coming to an NHS near you, digitisation. Let's see how many appointments it really creates.